She arrived in designer heels and left in work boots, but the man who tried to drag her back wasn't ready to lose his prize. Ethan Callaway thought he'd seen every kind of desperation. 5 years of solo parenting, drowning debt, and pre-dawn farm shifts had taught him survival. But when a black sedan dropped a terrified heiress on his doorstep with orders to break her spirit, he made a choice that would ignite a war. Her billionaire fiancé wanted obedience. Her family wanted control. Ethan wanted justice. And his 8-year-old daughter? She just wanted Serena to stay. One refusal, one handshake, one promise that changed 3 lives forever. If you're watching from your city tonight, drop it in the comments. I want to see how far this story travels. And if you believe some battles are worth fighting, hit that like button. Let's begin. The alarm screamed at 4:30 a.m., the same as it had every morning for the past 5 years. Ethan Callaway's hand shot out from under the quilt, slapping the clock silent before the noise could wake Lily. The room was still dark, the kind of thick, cold darkness that only existed in rural Montana in early November. Frost crept along the edges of the window pane. His breath puffed white in the unheated bedroom. He sat up slowly, joints protesting. 36 years old and his body already felt older. 5 years of running a failing farm alone would do that to a man. He dressed in the dark, flannel, worn jeans, boots with duct tape holding the left sole together. Downstairs, the kitchen was barely warmer. He flipped the ancient thermostat up 2 degrees, the most he could afford, and started the coffee pot. While it sputtered to life, he stared at the stack of envelopes on the counter. Past due. Final notice. Account suspended. The mug beside them read, "World's Best Dad," in faded blue letters. Lily had given it to him 3 Christmases ago, back when she still believed her crayon drawings could fix anything. He poured coffee into it anyway. The farm wasn't much, 40 acres, a dozen cattle, some chickens that barely laid anymore, and a barn that leaked when it rained. But it had been in his family for 2 generations, and it was all he had left to give Lily. Her college fund was gone. The tractor was held together with prayer and spare parts. The mortgage was 4 months behind. But Ethan Callaway didn't quit. He pulled on his coat and stepped into the frozen morning. Akit. The cattle were waiting by the fence, breath steaming in the pre-dawn gray. Ethan hauled feed from the shed, his shoulders burning with the familiar ache of too much work and not enough help. The sun was just beginning to crack the horizon when he heard it, the sound of an engine, not the rattle of a pickup or the rumble of a delivery truck. This was smooth, expensive, wrong. Ethan straightened, wiping his hands on his jeans as a black luxury sedan rolled up the muddy driveway, completely out of place against the backdrop of rusted equipment and peeling barn paint. It stopped 20 feet from where he stood. The driver stepped out first, a man in a dark suit, too clean for this place. He didn't speak, just opened the rear door. A young woman emerged. She was maybe 24, 25, dark hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. Expensive coat, designer boots already flecked with mud, but it was her face that stopped him. Pale, exhausted, and behind the carefully composed mask, terrified. The driver reached into the car and pulled out a leather briefcase. He walked toward Ethan without introduction. "Mr. Callaway?" Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Who's asking?" "My name is irrelevant. I represent the Vale family. This is Serena Vale." He gestured toward the woman who stood motionless beside the car, arms wrapped around herself. "You've been selected to provide temporary housing and employment under a private contract." Ethan's jaw tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about." The driver opened the briefcase and pulled out a thick stack of papers. "Your farm was flagged in a rural rehabilitation program. The family requires discretion. Miss Vale will remain here for 6 months. You will provide basic lodging and assign her manual labor. In exchange, you will receive $50,000, half now, half upon completion." Ethan stared at him. "You want me to babysit some rich girl?" "We want you to employ her. She is not to contact her family, her friends, or anyone from her previous life. She will work. She will learn discipline. And at the end of 6 months, if she has demonstrated compliance, she will return home." Serena's hands clenched into fists at her sides. Ethan looked at her, really looked at her. Beneath the fear, there was fury. Her jaw was tight, her eyes burned. This wasn't a rehabilitation program. This was a punishment. What if I say no? Ethan asked quietly. The driver's expression didn't change. Then we moved to the next farm on the list. But I should mention, your mortgage holder is aware of this opportunity. Refusing may complicate your financial situation. Ethan's stomach dropped. They'd done their homework. They knew exactly how desperate he was. The driver set the briefcase on the hood of the sedan and pulled out a check. $25,000. Made out to Ethan Calloway. She stays in the cabin behind your house. She works. She doesn't leave the property. You report weekly on her progress. Simple. Ethan's eyes shifted back to Serena. She was watching him now, and for the first time she spoke. Please. Her voice was barely a whisper, but it cut through the cold morning air like a blade. Please don't send me back. The driver's expression hardened. Miss Vale, I'll work, she said, louder now. I'll do whatever he asks. Just don't make me go back to Victor. Ethan's chest tightened. Victor. A name. A fiancé, probably. Someone she was running from. The driver stepped toward her. You don't have a choice. Everyone has a choice, Ethan said. The driver turned sharply. Excuse me? Ethan crossed his arms. You heard me. She's a person, not a dog you can drop off for training. Mr. Calloway, I don't think you understand the gravity of... I understand just fine. Ethan's voice was hard now. You want me to take money to keep someone here against their will. That's called kidnapping where I come from. The driver's eyes flashed. It's called a contract, and her family has legal authority. She's an adult. She's mentally unstable. She looks pretty stable to me. Serena's breath hitched. The driver straightened, clearly losing patience. If you refuse, the Vale family will ensure that your financial difficulties become exponentially worse. Do you understand? Ethan held his gaze. Yeah, I understand. Silence stretched between them. Then Ethan turned to Serena. You want to stay here? She nodded quickly. Yes. You'll work hard. No complaints. I will. And if I let you stay, it's on your terms, not theirs. Her eyes widened. What? Ethan turned back to the driver. Here's my counteroffer. She stays, she works. But she's not a prisoner. She's an employee. She gets fair wages, fair treatment, and if she wants to leave, she leaves. No locked doors, no surveillance, no reporting to you. The driver's face went cold. That's not acceptable. Then take your money and go. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Serena stepped forward. I'll sign it. Whatever contract you want. But I'm staying here. The driver's jaw worked. He looked at Ethan, then at Serena, then at the check still sitting on the sedan's hood. Finally, he exhaled sharply. Fine. But if she runs, the family will hold you responsible. She won't run, Ethan said, because she won't need to. The driver shoved the papers back into the briefcase, slammed it shut, and climbed into the car without another word. The sedan reversed down the driveway, mud spraying from its tires. And just like that, Ethan Calloway was standing in his driveway with a woman he didn't know and a check he didn't trust. Serena turned to him, eyes still wide with shock. Why did you do that? Ethan looked at her for a long moment. Then he picked up the check, folded it, and slipped it into his coat pocket. Because nobody deserves to be somebody's prisoner. The cabin was small. One room, a wood stove, a cot with a thin mattress, and a window that rattled in the wind. It hadn't been used in years, not since Ethan's grandfather had lived there. But it was clean, and it was warm once Ethan got the stove going. Serena stood in the doorway, still holding the single bag the driver had left. It's not much, Ethan said, stacking firewood beside the stove. But it's yours. Door locks from the inside. You need anything? The main house is 50 yards that way. He pointed through the trees. She nodded slowly, taking it in. There's a bathroom in the house, he continued. You're welcome to use it any time. Meals are at 6, noon, and 6. You eat with us. Us? Me and my daughter, Lily. She's 8. Ethan straightened, brushing soot off his hands. She's curious. She'll ask questions. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. Serena set her bag down on the cot. What do you want me to do? Work. Like I said, chickens need feeding every morning at 5. Fence line needs mending on the south pasture. Barn needs mucking. I'll show you everything tomorrow. She looked down at her hands, soft, manicured, completely unprepared for manual labor. I don't know how to do any of that, she admitted quietly. Then you'll learn. She met his eyes. Why are you helping me? Ethan paused in the doorway. I'm not helping you. I'm giving you a chance to help yourself. Big difference. He left her there and walked back toward the house. Inside, Lily was awake, sitting at the kitchen table in her pajamas with a bowl of cereal. Who was that? She asked immediately, eyes bright with curiosity. Ethan poured himself another cup of coffee. Her name's Serena. She's going to be working here for a while. Why? Because she needs a job. Lily tilted her head. Is she nice? I don't know yet. Can I meet her? At breakfast. Finish your cereal. Lily grinned and spooned another mouthful, already planning her interrogation. Ethan leaned against the counter, staring out the window toward the cabin. Smoke was rising from the chimney now. Serena was inside, probably trying to figure out what the hell she'd just agreed to. He didn't know her story, didn't know what she was running from, or why her family wanted her hidden away like something shameful, but he knew what it felt like to be trapped, and he'd be damned if he was going to be part of someone else's cage. The first week was brutal. Serena showed up at 5 a.m. that first morning in the same designer coat, her hands already red from the cold. Ethan handed her a pair of work gloves and a bucket of feed. Chickens first, he said. Scatter it evenly. They'll fight if you don't. She nodded, took the bucket, and followed him to the coop. The chickens exploded into chaos the moment she opened the door. Feathers everywhere, squawking. Serena yelped and stumbled backward, dropping half the feed. Ethan didn't laugh. He just picked up the bucket and showed her again. Steady, they're noisier than they are dangerous. She tried again. This time, she got the feed scattered. The chickens ignored her and went straight for the food. Good, Ethan said. Now collect the eggs. She stared at him. From where? The nests. Where are the nests? He pointed. Serena crouched down, reached into the first nest, and jerked her hand back with a gasp. Something moved. That's a chicken. It's sitting on the eggs. Yeah, they do that. She looked at him like he'd asked her to wrestle a bear. Ethan sighed, reached past her, gently nudged the hen aside, and pulled out 3 warm eggs. Like that. Serena watched, then slowly reached into the next nest. Her hand came back with an egg. She held it up like a trophy. I did it. Congratulations, 11 more to go. By the time they finished, her coat was covered in straw and her hair had come loose from its ponytail. But she'd collected every egg. Ethan handed her a basket. Barn's next. Mucking stalls was worse. Serena stood in the barn doorway, staring at the pile of soiled hay and manure, and Ethan saw the exact moment she regretted every decision that had led her here. Pitchforks on the wall, he said. Wheelbarrows outside. You haul it to the compost pile behind the barn. She didn't move. Problem? Ethan asked. I've never... She trailed off, then straightened. No problem. She grabbed the pitchfork. It took her 2 hours to do what should have taken 30 minutes. Her hands blistered. Her back ached. She slipped twice and landed in the muck. But she didn't quit. When she finally hauled the last wheelbarrow to the compost pile, Ethan was waiting with a thermos of coffee. You did good, he said. Serena wiped her forehead with the back of her hand, smearing dirt across her face. I did terribly. You finished. That's what matters. She took the coffee, hand shaking slightly. How do you do this every day? Practice? She laughed. A short, surprised sound. I don't think I've worked this hard in my entire life. Then you've been missing out. She looked at him, something shifting in her expression. You really don't care who I am, do you? Nope. You don't want to know why I'm here? Not unless you want to tell me. She was quiet for a moment, sipping the coffee. Then she said, Thank you. For what? For not asking. Ethan nodded. Finish that and head inside. Lily's been asking about you all morning. Lily was, in fact, vibrating with excitement when Serena stepped into the kitchen. Hi, she said brightly, bouncing on her toes. I'm Lily. Are you really working on the farm? Do you like chickens? I like chickens. We have one named Margaret. She's mean. Do you have a favorite animal? Mine's dolphins, but we don't have those here. Daddy says we can't afford a pool. Do you like pools? Serena blinked, overwhelmed. Ethan set a plate of eggs and toast in front of her. Breathe, Lily. I'm just asking questions. Try asking one at a time. Lily plopped into the chair across from Serena, chin in her hands. Okay, do you like it here? Serena hesitated, then smiled. A real one, small but genuine. I think I might. Lily beamed. Good, because Daddy says you're staying for a while and I think we're going to be friends. You do? Yep, I can tell. Serena glanced at Ethan, who was leaning against the counter with his coffee, watching the exchange with quiet amusement. She's usually right, he said. Lily grinned. I'm always right. And for the first time in weeks, Serena felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Safe. The days fell into a rhythm. Serena woke before dawn, fed the chickens, mucked the stalls, mended fences under Ethan's patient instruction. Her hands calloused, her muscles ached. But slowly, the work became easier. She learned how to lift without straining her back, how to coax a stubborn hen off her eggs, how to hammer a fence post without smashing her thumb. Ethan didn't hover. He showed her once, let her try, corrected when necessary, and trusted her to figure out the rest. It was the first time in her life anyone had trusted her with anything real. At night, she sat in the cabin and stared at the fire, too tired to think about Victor or her father or the life she'd left behind. For the first time in years, she slept without nightmares. 2 weeks in, Lily invited her to movie night. We watch one every Friday, she explained, dragging Serena toward the living room. Daddy lets me pick. This week it's Moana. Ethan was already on the couch, a bowl of popcorn in his lap. You don't have to, he said to Serena. If you'd rather... I'd like to, Serena said quickly. Lily cheered and patted the spot beside her. They watched the movie. Lily sang along to every song. Ethan fell asleep halfway through, head tipped back against the couch. Serena found herself smiling. When the credits rolled, Lily looked up at her. Do you have a family? The question was innocent, curious. Serena's smile faltered. I used to. What happened? Lily, Ethan said quietly, awake now. That's enough. But Serena shook her head. It's okay. She looked at Lily. Sometimes families don't know how to love you the way you need, so you have to find people who do. Lily thought about that. Then she scooted closer and leaned her head on Serena's shoulder. You can be part of ours if you want. Serena's throat tightened. She looked at Ethan, who was watching them both with an expression she couldn't quite read. I'd like that, she whispered. 3 weeks in, the first letter arrived. Ethan found it in the mailbox. Thick, expensive stationery, addressed to Serena Vale. He brought it to her that evening while she was chopping firewood behind the cabin. She'd gotten good at it. Her swings were clean now, efficient. This came for you, he said, holding out the envelope. She froze, axe mid-swing. Then she set it down carefully and took the letter. Her hand shook as she opened it. Ethan didn't ask. He just waited. Serena read in silence. Her face went pale. Then she crumpled the letter and threw it into the fire pit. They want me to come back, she said flatly. Do you want to? No. Then don't. She laughed bitterly. It's not that simple. Why not? Because they'll make it impossible for me to stay. They'll come here. They'll threaten you. They'll... Let them. She stared at him. Ethan crossed his arms. You think I'm scared of some rich people in suits? You should be. They're powerful. So are you. Serena blinked. What? You left. You're still here. You're working. You're building something. That takes strength. He stepped closer. Don't let them take that from you. Serena's eyes filled with tears. She looked away quickly, swiping at them. I don't know how to fight them. Then we'll figure it out together. She looked back at him, searching his face. Why do you care? Ethan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, because I know what it's like to lose everything, and I know what it's like to find something worth protecting. He turned and walked back toward the house, leaving her standing there in the firelight. Serena watched him go, and for the first time she believed she might actually survive this. The second letter arrived 4 days later. This time, it wasn't alone. Ethan was out fixing the fence line when he saw the black SUV pull up to the cabin. 2 men in suits stepped out, and his stomach dropped. He dropped the hammer and started running. By the time he reached the cabin, Serena was standing in the doorway, arms crossed, blocking their entry. "I already told you," she was saying, voice tight with controlled fury. "I'm not going back." The taller man, early 50s, silver hair, expensive watch, smiled without warmth. "Miss Vale, your father is very concerned about your well-being." "My father," Serena said coldly, "is concerned about his reputation. Nevertheless, he's asked us to ensure you're being treated appropriately." "I'm fine." "You're living in a shed. It's a cabin, and it's mine." The man's smile thinned. "Your fiancé is willing to forgive this episode, but his patience has limits." Ethan stepped between them. "She said she's not going." The man's eyes flicked to him, dismissive. "And you are?" "The guy who owns this property, which means you're trespassing. We're here on behalf of the Vale family. I don't care if you're here on behalf of the Queen. She doesn't want to talk to you, so leave." The second man, younger, broader, took a step forward. "Mr. Calloway, I don't think you understand the situation." "I understand just fine. You're trying to intimidate someone half your size into doing something she doesn't want to do. Where I'm from, we call that bullying." The older man's expression hardened. "Where you're from is irrelevant. Miss Vale is part of a contractual agreement, one that includes certain obligations. She's a person, not a product." "She's a Vale," the man said sharply, "and that comes with responsibilities you clearly don't comprehend." Serena's hands clenched into fists. "I comprehend perfectly. You want me to marry a man I don't love to secure a business merger. You want me to smile and nod and pretend I'm not a human being with my own thoughts and feelings. We want you to honor your commitments." "I never made any commitments. My father made them for me." The older man sighed like he was dealing with a particularly stubborn child. "Miss Vale, you're 24 years old. You have no income, no assets in your name, and no legal standing to refuse your family's guidance." "I have a job." He laughed, a short, condescending sound. "Shoveling manure is not a career. It's more honest than anything you've ever done." The man's expression went ice cold. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded document. "Your father anticipated this resistance. He's filed for temporary conservatorship on the grounds of mental instability." Serena's face went white. Ethan's jaw clenched. "You can't do that." "We already have. The hearing is in 2 weeks. Until then, Miss Vale is required to return home for psychiatric evaluation." "Like hell she is." The younger man stepped forward again. "Mr. Calloway, if you interfere with a legal proceeding, you'll be charged with obstruction. And if you try to remove her from this property without her consent, I'll have you charged with kidnapping." The two men exchanged glances. The older one folded the document and set it on the porch railing. "The hearing is December 3rd. Miss Vale is expected to attend. If she doesn't, the court will rule in absentia, and the conservatorship will be granted automatically." He turned and walked back to the SUV. The younger man followed. Ethan and Serena stood in silence as the vehicle reversed down the driveway and disappeared. Then Serena's knees buckled. Ethan caught her before she hit the ground. "I can't go back," she whispered, shaking. "I can't. He'll lock me up. He'll—" Hey, look at me." She lifted her head, eyes wide with panic. "You're not going anywhere," Ethan said firmly. "We're going to fight this." "How? They have lawyers, money, influence. I have nothing. You have the truth. The truth doesn't matter to people like them." "Then we'll make it matter." She searched his face, desperate for something to hold on to. "You don't know what they're capable of." "Then tell me." That night, after Lily was asleep, Serena sat at Ethan's kitchen table and told him everything. She told him about growing up in a world where love was transactional and obedience was currency. About a father who measured her worth in stock prices and social connections. About a mother who'd stopped fighting years ago and now floated through life on prescription sedatives and champagne. She told him about Victor Hale, charming in public, controlling in private. The way he'd grip her wrist too tight at parties. The way he'd correct her opinions in front of others. The way he'd told her, smiling, that once they were married, she'd learn to appreciate his guidance. "He never hit me," she said quietly, "but he made it clear he could. That he owned me, that I was lucky he'd chosen me." Ethan's hands tightened around his coffee mug. "I tried to tell my father," Serena continued. "He said I was being dramatic. that Victor was a good man from a good family, that I needed to stop embarrassing him with my theatrics. So you ran. I told Victor I wouldn't marry him. He laughed, said I didn't have a choice. She swallowed hard. That's when my father decided I needed to be taught a lesson. He found this program, some rural rehabilitation thing that's supposed to break stubborn daughters, make them compliant. That's insane. That's my family. Ethan set down his mug. We're going to need a lawyer. Serena shook her head. I can't afford one. I know someone. He owes me a favor. Ethan? Serena. He met her eyes. You're not doing this alone. Her throat tightened. Why are you doing this? He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, 5 years ago I lost my wife to cancer. Took her 8 months to die. Every day I watched her get weaker, and there was nothing I could do. Nothing. I was powerless. Serena's breath caught. I swore I'd never feel that way again, Ethan continued. I swore if I ever had the chance to fight for something that mattered, I wouldn't back down. He leaned forward. You matter. And I'm not backing down. Tears spilled down Serena's cheeks. Okay, she whispered. Okay. The next morning, Ethan called Marcus Chen. Marcus had been his wife's oncologist, brilliant, compassionate, and one of the few people who'd stayed in touch after she died. 2 years ago, when Marcus's teenage son had gotten into trouble, Ethan had vouched for him with the local sheriff. The charges were dropped. Marcus had said if Ethan ever needed anything, he'd be there. Ethan was calling in that favor. I need a lawyer, he said when Marcus picked up. A good one. Someone who can fight a conservatorship case. There was a pause. What's going on, Ethan? Ethan explained, briefly, efficiently. Marcus was silent for a long moment. Then he said, I know someone. Her name's Rachel Ortiz. She specializes in family law and exploitation cases. She's expensive. How expensive? More than you can afford. Marcus. But she also takes pro bono cases when they matter. Let me make a call. 2 hours later, Rachel Ortiz called Ethan directly. Her voice was sharp, no nonsense. Marcus says you've got a woman trying to escape a forced engagement. Conservatorship, Ethan corrected. They're claiming she's mentally unstable. On what grounds? None. It's retaliation. Can you prove that? She's coherent, employed, and living independently. She's not unstable. That's not proof, that's observation. Rachel paused. I'll need to talk to her. Can you bring her to my office tomorrow? Where are you? Billings? Ethan winced. That was a 3-hour drive. We'll be there. Good. Bring any documentation you have, contracts, letters, emails, anything that shows coercion or control. We will. And Ethan? Yeah? If this is what Marcus says it is, we're not just fighting a conservatorship. We're going to war with a very powerful family. You ready for that? Ethan looked across the kitchen to where Serena sat at the table, holding Lily's hand while the little girl chattered about her day. Yeah, he said. I'm ready. The drive to Billings was tense. Serena sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window at the endless stretch of highway. Lily was in the back, coloring in a sketchbook and humming to herself, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing. You okay? Ethan asked quietly. Serena didn't answer right away. Then she said, What if she can't help? She will. You don't know that. No, but I know we're going to try. Serena glanced at him. You keep saying we, because it's true. This isn't your fight. You're on my property. You're part of my life. That makes it my fight. She looked away, blinking hard. In the back seat, Lily piped up. Are we going to win? Ethan met her eyes in the rearview mirror. Yes. How do you know? Because we're not giving up. Lily nodded solemnly, like that was the most logical thing she'd ever heard, and went back to coloring. Serena's lips twitched despite herself. Rachel Ortiz's office was on the 4th floor of a modest building near downtown Billings. The waiting room was small but clean, decorated with framed degrees and photos of smiling families. Rachel herself was in her mid-40s, sharp-eyed and efficient. She shook Ethan's hand firmly, smiled warmly at Lily, and then turned her full attention to Serena. Miss Vale, I'm Rachel. Have a seat. Serena sat, hands folded tightly in her lap. Rachel pulled out a legal pad and pen. Marcus gave me the basics, but I need details. Start from the beginning. When did the relationship with Victor Hale begin? Serena took a breath. 2 years ago. My father introduced us at a charity gala. Victor's family owns Hale Industries, shipping, logistics, international trade. My father wanted a merger. And the engagement? Victor proposed 6 months ago. I said yes because... She hesitated. Because I didn't know I could say no. Rachel's pen moved across the pad. When did that change? 4 months ago. He started controlling things. Where I went, who I talked to, what I wore. At first I thought he was just protective. Then I realized he was isolating me. Did he ever threaten you? Not directly, but he made it clear what would happen if I left. What would happen? He'd ruin me, my family, anyone who helped me. Rachel's expression didn't change, but her pen moved faster. Did you tell anyone? My father. He said I was overreacting. Anyone else? Serena shook her head. Do you have any documentation? Texts? Emails? Voicemails? No, he was careful. Everything was verbal. Rachel set down her pen. That makes this harder, but not impossible. She leaned forward. Here's what we're dealing with. Your father filed for conservatorship claiming you're experiencing a mental health crisis. He submitted affidavits from 2 psychiatrists stating you've exhibited erratic behavior, paranoia, and an inability to make sound decisions. Serena's face went pale. I've never met those psychiatrists. I know, that's the problem. The court doesn't know that yet. So what do we do? Ethan asked. Rachel looked at him. We build a counter-narrative. We show the court that Serena is competent, employed, and making rational decisions. We expose the conservatorship for what it is, a tool of coercion. How? First, we get Serena evaluated by an independent psychiatrist, someone with no ties to the Vale family. Second, we gather evidence of her stability, employment records, witness testimony, anything that shows she's thriving. She is, Ethan said. She's been working on my farm for a month. She's responsible, reliable. She's not unstable. Rachel nodded. Good. I'll need a written statement from you, detailed, specific examples. She turned back to Serena. And I'll need you to be ready to testify. Serena's hands trembled. In court? Yes. In front of my father? Victor? Yes. Serena closed her eyes. Lily, who'd been sitting quietly beside her, reached over and took her hand. Serena looked down at the little girl, whose eyes were wide and solemn. You can do it, Lily said softly. You're brave. Serena's breath hitched. She squeezed Lily's hand, then she looked at Rachel. Okay, I'll testify. The independent psychiatric evaluation was scheduled for the following week. Dr. Elena Vasquez met them at a clinic in Great Falls, a neutral location, far from the Vale family's influence. She was in her 60s, calm and methodical, with kind eyes that missed nothing. She interviewed Serena for 2 hours. Ethan and Lily waited in the lobby. Lily worked on homework. Ethan paced. When Serena finally emerged, she looked exhausted but steady. How'd it go? Ethan asked. She asked a lot of questions. Good questions? Fair questions. Dr. Vasquez appeared in the doorway. Mr. Calloway, may I speak with you? Ethan followed her into her office. Dr. Vasquez sat behind her desk and folded her hands. Miss Vale is one of the most emotionally intelligent young women I've encountered. She's articulate, self-aware, and demonstrates excellent decision-making capacity. Ethan exhaled in relief. However, Doctor, Vasquez continued, she's also experiencing significant trauma responses consistent with prolonged psychological abuse, hypervigilance, difficulty trusting authority figures, fear of retaliation. Ethan's jaw tightened. Can you testify to that? I can, and I will. Dr. Vasquez leaned forward. But I need you to understand something. This won't be easy for her. Testifying means reliving everything she's trying to move past. It means facing her abusers in a public forum. I know. Does she? She knows. Dr. Vasquez studied him. You care about her. It wasn't a question. Ethan met her gaze. She's family. Dr. Vasquez nodded slowly. Then make sure she knows she's not doing this alone. The days leading up to the hearing were a blur. Rachel filed motions. Ethan provided written testimony. Serena met with Dr. Vasquez twice more to prepare for questioning. At night, Serena stayed up late in the cabin, rehearsing her testimony by firelight. Ethan found her there one evening, staring into the flames. "Can't sleep?" he asked. She shook her head. "Every time I close my eyes, I see Victor's face." Ethan sat down beside her. "What does he look like?" "Smug, like he's already won." "He hasn't." "How do you know?" "Because he's not here." "You are." Serena looked at him. "What if the judge sides with them?" "Then we appeal." "And if we lose the appeal?" "Then we keep fighting." "For how long?" "As long as it takes." Serena's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know how you do it." "Do what?" "Stay so sure, so steady. I feel like I'm falling apart." Ethan turned to face her. "You want to know the truth? I'm terrified. Every single day, I'm terrified I'm going to fail you, that I'm going to lose the farm, that Lily's going to grow up thinking effort doesn't matter because the world's rigged anyway." Serena stared at him. "But I get up anyway," Ethan continued, "because fear doesn't get to win, and neither does Victor." Serena wiped her eyes. "I don't deserve you." "Yeah, you do." She laughed, a broken, watery sound. "You barely know me." "I know enough." "Like what?" "I know you're stronger than you think. I know you're kind to my daughter even when you're falling apart. I know you've worked harder in the last month than most people do in a year." He paused. "And I know you're worth fighting for." Serena's breath caught. For a long moment, they just sat there, the fire crackling between them. Then Serena said quietly, "Thank you." "For what?" "For seeing me." Ethan didn't answer. He just reached over and squeezed her hand. And in that moment, Serena realized something she hadn't expected. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was healing. The night before the hearing, Lily insisted on making a special dinner. "It's good luck," she explained, dragging Serena into the kitchen. "We always eat together before something important." Serena smiled despite her nerves. "What are we making?" "Spaghetti. It's Daddy's favorite." They cooked together, Lily chattering nonstop, Serena chopping vegetables with hands that only shook a little. Ethan hovered nearby, pretending to help but mostly just watching them. When the food was ready, they sat around the small kitchen table. Lily said grace, something simple about being thankful for family and friends and spaghetti. Serena's throat tightened. "You okay?" Ethan asked. She nodded. "Yeah, I haven't had this in a long time." "Had what?" "A family dinner." Lily beamed. "You're part of our family now." Serena looked at Ethan, who was watching her with an expression that made her chest ache. "Yeah," he said quietly. "You are." And for the first time in weeks, Serena felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. The courthouse in Billings was cold and imposing. Serena walked up the steps flanked by Ethan on one side and Rachel on the other. Lily had stayed behind with a neighbor. Rachel had insisted it wasn't appropriate for a child to attend. Inside, the hallways were marble and echoing. People in suits moved past them with briefcases and distracted expressions. Rachel led them to a small conference room. "The hearing starts in 30 minutes. I'll go over everything one more time." Serena nodded, trying to steady her breathing. Ethan squeezed her shoulder. "You've got this." Before she could respond, the door opened, and Victor Hale walked in. He looked exactly as Serena remembered, tall, polished, devastatingly handsome in an expensive suit. His smile was warm and concerned, the kind that fooled everyone who didn't know better. "Serena," he said gently, "I'm so glad you're here." Serena's entire body went rigid. Ethan stepped between them. "Get out." Victor's smile didn't falter. "I just want to talk to her." "She doesn't want to talk to you. I think she can speak for herself." "She already did. You didn't listen." Victor's eyes flicked to Ethan, assessing. "And you are?" "None of your business." Victor's smile turned cold. "I see. You're the farmer." He looked past Ethan to Serena. "Is this really what you want? Hiding on some backwater ranch with a single father and his... Don't, Serena said, voice shaking but firm. Don't you dare talk about them. Victor raised his hands in mock surrender. I'm just trying to understand. You had everything, Serena. A future, a family, security. And you threw it away for this? I threw away a cage. I gave you freedom. You gave me control disguised as love. Victor's expression darkened. You're confused. That's why we're here. To help you. I don't need your help. The court will decide that. Rachel stepped forward. Mr. Hale, this is inappropriate contact. If you don't leave, I'll have you removed. Victor's eyes lingered on Serena for a long moment. Then he smiled again, that same charming, empty smile. I'll see you inside, he said softly. And then he was gone. Serena's knees buckled. Ethan caught her. Breathe, he said. Just breathe. She clung to him, shaking. I can't do this. Yes, you can. He's going to win. He always wins. Not today. Rachel's voice cut through the panic. Serena, look at me. Serena lifted her head. Rachel's expression was steel. You are not the same woman he controlled. You're not the same woman your father silenced. You've built a life. You've found your strength. Now show them. Serena took a shuddering breath, then another. Then she straightened. Okay, she whispered. I'm ready. The courtroom was smaller than Serena had imagined. She sat at the defendant's table beside Rachel, hands folded tightly in her lap. Ethan sat in the gallery directly behind her. Across the aisle, Victor sat with his lawyers, 3 of them, all in matching suits. Her father sat beside him, expression unreadable. The judge entered, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. This is a hearing to determine the necessity of conservatorship for Miss Serena Vale, she said, settling into her seat. Mr. Hale, you may present your case. Victor's lead attorney stood, a man in his 50s with silver hair and an air of absolute confidence. Your Honor, Miss Vale has exhibited increasingly erratic behavior over the past 6 months. She broke off a long-standing engagement without explanation. She fled her family home. She's currently living in substandard conditions with a man she barely knows. Rachel stood immediately. Objection. Miss Vale is living independently and is gainfully employed. In a shed, the attorney shot back, in a cabin that meets all safety and habitability standards. The judge raised a hand. I'll hear evidence from both sides. Continue. The attorney nodded. We have affidavits from 2 licensed psychiatrists who have reviewed Miss Vale's recent behavior and concluded that she is experiencing a severe mental health crisis characterized by paranoia, impulsivity, and an inability to assess risk. Rachel stood again. Your Honor, those psychiatrists have never actually evaluated Miss Vale. They reviewed extensive documentation provided by her family. Hearsay and subjective interpretation are not substitutes for professional evaluation. The judge's eyes narrowed. Do you have an independent evaluation? We do. Rachel pulled out Dr. Vasquez's report. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a licensed clinical psychologist with 30 years of experience, conducted a thorough evaluation of Miss Vale. Her findings directly contradict the claims made by the petitioners. The attorney's jaw tightened. Your Honor, Dr. Vasquez was hired by the defense. Her objectivity is questionable. And the psychiatrists hired by the family aren't? Rachel shot back. The judge held up a hand. I'll review both reports. Anything else? The attorney hesitated. Then he said, We'd like to call a witness, Mr. Victor Hale. Serena's heart stopped. Victor stood and walked to the witness stand, every movement smooth and practiced. He placed his hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth, and sat down. His attorney began. Mr. Hale, how long have you known Miss Vale? 2 years. And what is the nature of your relationship? We're engaged to be married. Were, Serena whispered. Rachel touched her arm. Not yet. The attorney continued. Can you describe Miss Vale's behavior in the months leading up to her departure? Victor's expression turned pained. She became withdrawn, paranoid. She stopped trusting me, stopped trusting her family. She started making accusations that didn't make sense. What kind of accusations? That I was controlling her, That I was isolating her. None of it was true. I loved her. I just wanted to protect her. Serena's hands clenched into fists. And when she left, I was devastated. I just wanted her safe. The attorney nodded sympathetically. No further questions. Rachel stood. Mr. Hale, you say you wanted to protect Miss Vale. Yes. From what? Victor blinked. I'm sorry? You said you wanted to protect her. From what, specifically? From making poor decisions. Such as leaving a stable relationship, living in unsafe conditions. Unsafe how? She's living in a rural area with no security, no proper housing. She's employed, financially independent, and living in a fully equipped cabin on private property, Rachel interrupted. How is that unsafe? Victor's smile tightened. She's not thinking clearly. Because she disagrees with you. Because she's not herself. And who is she supposed to be? Victor's expression flickered. Someone who understands what's best for her. Which is? Marrying me. Rachel let the silence hang. Then she said, Mr. Hale, did Miss Vale ever express that she didn't want to marry you? She was confused. That's not an answer. Did she or did she not tell you she didn't want to marry you? Victor's jaw tightened. Yet, And what did you say? I told her she'd change her mind. Did you respect her decision? I respected her confusion. So you ignored her wishes. I protected her from a mistake. Rachel's voice sharpened. By ignoring her autonomy? Objection, the attorney said. Argumentative. Sustained, the judge said. But she was watching Victor closely now. Rachel pressed on. Mr. Hale, have you ever told Miss Vale what to wear? Victor hesitated. I may have offered suggestions. Have you ever told her who she could or couldn't spend time with? I encouraged her to prioritize our relationship. Have you ever physically prevented her from leaving a room? Victor's eyes went cold. No. Have you ever gripped her wrist hard enough to bruise? Objection, the attorney stood. Relevance, Rachel turned to the judge. This speaks directly to the petitioner's claim that Miss Vale is paranoid. If her fears are based on actual experience, they're not paranoia, they're self-preservation. The judge considered. I'll allow it. Answer the question, Mr. Hale. Victor's smile was gone now. I may have held her arm during a disagreement. Hard enough to bruise? I don't recall. You don't recall causing her physical pain. It wasn't intentional. Rachel nodded slowly. No further questions. Victor stepped down, his expression dark. Serena's heart was pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. The judge looked at Rachel. Does the defense wish to call any witnesses? Yes, Your Honor. We call Miss Serena Vale. Miss Serena stood on shaking legs and walked to the stand. She placed her hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth, and sat down. Rachel's voice was gentle. Serena, why did you leave your family? Serena took a breath. Because I realized I was never going to be free if I stayed. Can you explain? My father chose my fiancée, my career, my friends, my clothes, everything. I thought that was normal. That was love. Until I tried to make one choice for myself, to not marry Victor, and they told me I didn't have the right. What happened when you refused the engagement? Victor told me I'd regret it. My father called me ungrateful. They sent me here to learn my place. And what have you learned? Serena's voice strengthened. I learned that I'm stronger than they told me I was, that I'm capable, that I deserve to make my own choices. Rachel nodded. No further questions. Victor's attorney stood. Miss Vale, isn't it true that you have no income outside of this farm work? I have income. I earn it. $50 a week? It's honest work. It's poverty. It's freedom. The attorney's expression soured. Your Honor, this is exactly what we're talking about. Miss Vale is choosing hardship over security because she's not capable of rational... I'm capable, Serena interrupted. I'm just not compliant, and that terrifies you. The courtroom went silent. The judge leaned forward. Continue. Serena looked directly at her father. You taught me that my value was in my obedience. that my worth was in how well I played the role you assigned. But I'm not a role, I'm a person, and I deserve the same respect you'd give any man in this room. Her father's expression didn't change, but Victor's did. The judge looked at the attorneys. I've heard enough. I'll issue my ruling within 48 hours. This hearing is adjourned. The gavel fell. Serena stepped down, her legs barely holding her. Ethan was waiting. He caught her as she stumbled. You did it, he whispered. I don't know if it was enough. It was everything. Rachel approached, expression unreadable. That was either the best testimony I've ever seen or the most reckless. Which one? Serena asked. Rachel smiled, just a little. We'll find out in 2 days. They drove home in silence. Ethan kept glancing at Serena, who stared out the window with distant eyes. When they finally pulled into the driveway, she didn't move. Serena? I saw my father's face, she said quietly. When I was testifying, he didn't care. Not about me, not about what I said. He just didn't care. Ethan reached over and took her hand. Then he doesn't deserve you. Serena turned to look at him. What if I lose? Then we appeal. And if we lose that, we find another way. But you're not going back. How can you promise that? Because I'm not letting go. Serena's eyes filled with tears. Why? Ethan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, because you matter to me. You and Lily, you're the first thing I've cared about in 5 years that isn't just survival, and I'll be damned if I let them take that away. Serena leaned across the seat and wrapped her arms around him. Ethan held her while she cried. And in the fading Montana light, 2 broken people held on to each other and refused to let go. The 48 hours that followed felt like 48 years. Serena tried to work. She fed the chickens, mucked the stalls, repaired a section of fence that didn't really need repairing, but her hands shook and her mind wandered, replaying every word she'd said in court, every expression on the judge's face, every cold glance from her father. Ethan didn't push her to talk. He just worked beside her, steady and present, and that was enough. Lily, however, had other plans. On the second morning, she appeared in the barn doorway with her backpack and a determined expression. I'm staying home today, she announced. Ethan looked up from the tractor engine he was trying to resurrect. School's not optional, kiddo. Serena needs us. Serena's fine. No, she's not. She's pretending. Lily crossed her arms. I do that too when I'm sad. I can tell. Serena, who was sweeping hay in the corner, stopped mid-motion. Ethan sighed. Lily, please, Daddy, just today. He looked at his daughter's earnest face, then at Serena, who was staring at the floor with suspiciously bright eyes. Fine, he said. Just today. Lily beamed and bounded over to Serena. Come on, we're making cookies. Serena blinked. What? Cookies. It's what Mom used to do when things were hard. Daddy told me. She grabbed Serena's hand. You can't be sad when you're making cookies. It's science. Ethan watched them walk toward the house, Lily chattering about chocolate chips and proper mixing techniques, and something in his chest loosened. He hadn't talked about his wife in years, not with Lily, not with anyone, but somehow Serena had made it okay. They spent the morning in the kitchen, flour everywhere, Lily on a step stool, Serena trying to follow the 8-year-old's confident instructions. The radio played old country songs. The house smelled like sugar and butter, and something that felt dangerously close to home. When the first batch came out of the oven, Lily insisted they do a taste test. Okay, she said seriously, breaking a cookie in half. On a scale of 1 to 10, how good is this? Serena took a bite. 11. You have to be honest. I am. It's perfect. Lily grinned and turned to Ethan, who'd wandered in from the barn. Daddy? He took a cookie, chewed thoughtfully. 12. You're both lying, but I'll allow it. Lily grabbed another cookie and headed for the living room. I'm going to watch cartoons. You guys can talk about boring adult stuff now. She disappeared, leaving Ethan and Serena alone in the kitchen. Serena leaned against the counter, arms crossed. She's remarkable. She's a handful. She's exactly what you need her to be. Ethan poured 2 cups of coffee and handed one to Serena. You did good today. I made cookies. You let Lily take care of you. That's harder. Serena took the coffee, wrapping both hands around the warm mug. I'm not used to people caring without wanting something in return. Get used to it. She looked at him, something vulnerable flickering in her eyes. What if the judge rules against me? Then we appeal. And if that fails, then we find another way. You keep saying that. Because it's true. Serena set down the coffee. Ethan, I need you to understand something. If they win, they won't just take me back. They'll come after you, the farm. Lily, they'll destroy everything you've built because you dared to help me. I know. And you're still willing to risk it? He met her gaze steadily. Without question. Why? Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, because the first time I saw you, you were standing in my driveway looking like you were ready to fight the whole world with nothing but your bare hands. And I thought, that's someone worth knowing. He stepped closer. I was right. Serena's breath caught. I'm not brave. Yeah, you are. You just don't see it yet. Before she could respond, Lily's voice rang out from the living room. The phone's ringing. Ethan crossed to the landline, an ancient rotary model that barely worked half the time, and picked up. Calloway residence. Mr. Calloway, this is Rachel Ortiz. Ethan's grip tightened on the receiver. Do you have news? The judge issued her ruling. Can you and Serena come to my office this afternoon? Just tell me now. Rachel paused. I'd rather do this in person. Rachel, 3 o'clock, don't be late. She hung up. Ethan stood there, phone still in his hand, heart hammering. Serena appeared in the doorway. What did she say? She wants us in Billings at 3. Did she say anything else? Ethan shook his head. Serena's face went pale. That's not good, is it? If it was good news, she would have told you. We don't know that. Yes, we do. Serena, I'm going to lose. Her voice was flat, resigned. They're going to take me back, and there's nothing we can do about it. Ethan crossed the room in 3 strides and gripped her shoulders. Listen to me. We don't know anything yet, so we're going to drive to Billings, we're going to hear what Rachel has to say, and then we're going to deal with it, together. Understood? Serena's eyes filled with tears. I'm scared. I know, me too. But you don't look scared. That's because I've had a lot of practice pretending. She almost smiled. Almost. Lily wandered into the kitchen, cookie in hand. Are we going on a road trip? Kind of. Ethan said. We need to go see Rachel. The lawyer lady? Yeah. Lily looked between them, reading the tension in the room with the uncanny perception of children. Is everything okay? Serena knelt down to her eye level. I don't know yet, but whatever happens, I need you to know something. She took Lily's hands. Meeting you has been one of the best things that's ever happened to me. Lily's face crumpled. You're not leaving, are you? I don't want to. Then don't. It might not be up to me. Lily threw her arms around Serena's neck. I'll tell the judge you have to stay. I'll tell her your family. Serena held her tight, eyes squeezed shut against tears. Your family too. Ethan watched them, throat tight, and wondered how he was supposed to let this go if the judge ruled against them. He didn't have an answer. The drive to Billings was silent, except for the radio and Lily's occasional questions, which Ethan deflected as gently as he could. Serena stared out the window, jaw tight, hands clenched in her lap. When they finally pulled into the parking lot outside Rachel's office, Serena didn't move. I can't do this, she whispered. Yes, you can. What if? No what ifs. We go in, we listen, we deal with whatever comes next. She looked at him, desperate. Promise me something. What? Promise me you'll take care of Lily, no matter what happens. Don't let this destroy you. Ethan's jaw worked. I'm not making that promise. Ethan, because we're not losing. He reached over and took her hand. You hear me? We're not losing. She wanted to believe him. He could see it in her eyes. But fear was louder than hope. They walked into Rachel's office together, Lily between them, holding both their hands. Rachel was waiting in the conference room, expression unreadable. She gestured for them to sit. I'll get right to it, she said. The judge ruled in your favor. For a moment, no one moved. Then Serena exhaled. A broken, shuddering sound. What? The conservatorship petition was denied. The judge found no evidence of mental instability. She also issued a restraining order against Victor Hale, prohibiting him from contacting you or coming within 500 feet of you. Serena's hands flew to her mouth. Lily jumped up. We won? You won, Rachel confirmed. Serena started crying, huge gasping sobs that shook her whole body. Ethan pulled her into his arms and held her while she fell apart. It's over, he murmured. It's over. But Rachel's expression was still serious. Not quite. Ethan looked up sharply. What do you mean? Rachel pulled out a folder. Victor's attorneys filed an appeal within an hour of the ruling. They're claiming the judge was biased. The appeal hearing is scheduled for January 15th. The relief that had flooded the room drained away like water through a sieve. Serena pulled back, wiping her eyes. So it's not over. The conservatorship is denied for now, but the appeal could overturn that. Rachel leaned forward. Here's what you need to understand. Victor isn't going to let this go. He's humiliated, angry. Men like him don't accept defeat. What do? Ethan asked. We build a stronger case. We gather more evidence. We prepare for a fight. Rachel looked at Serena. And you need to be ready for him to escalate. Escalate how? Harassment, intimidation. He might try to discredit you publicly. He might go after people close to you. Her eyes flicked to Ethan. You need to be careful. Ethan's jaw set. We can handle it. Can you? Because this isn't just about legal battles anymore. This is about a man who's used to getting what he wants, and right now, what he wants is control over Serena. Serena stood abruptly. Then he's going to be disappointed. Rachel studied her. You've changed. What do you mean? When you first came to my office, you looked like you were ready to bolt at any second. Now you look ready to fight. Serena's hands were still shaking, but her voice was steady. Because I have something worth fighting for. Rachel nodded slowly. Good. You're going to need that. They left the office an hour later with a stack of documents and a plan. Rachel would continue building the case. Serena would document any contact or harassment from Victor or his associates. Ethan would provide continued testimony about her stability and employment. In the truck, Lily broke the heavy silence. So we won, but we didn't win. Ethan glanced at her in the rearview mirror. We won this round, there's another round coming. Like a boxing match? Kind of. Lily considered this. Are we going to win the next round too? We're going to try. That's not a yes. It's the best I've got right now, kiddo. Lily looked at Serena. Are you okay? Serena turned in her seat to face her. I'm better than okay. Do you know why? Why? Because I have you and your dad, and that makes me stronger than I've ever been. Lily smiled, a bright, fierce thing. We make you strong, and you make us happy. That's fair. Serena's eyes filled with tears again, but this time she was smiling too. Ethan reached over and squeezed her hand. They drove home through the Montana twilight, and for the first time in weeks, the silence felt less like dread and more like peace. But peace, as it turned out, was temporary. 3 days later, the trouble started. Ethan was in town picking up feed when he ran into Sheriff Dale Kowalski at the hardware store. Dale was in his late 50s, decent enough, but lazy when it came to anything that didn't directly affect his re-election chances. Ethan, Dale said, nodding, heard you got yourself mixed up in some legal drama. Ethan kept loading bags of feed into the cart. News travels fast. Small town, people talk. Dale leaned against the shelf, arms crossed. Got a call from some fancy lawyers yesterday. Said you're harboring a mentally unstable woman on your property. Ethan's jaw tightened. She's not mentally unstable. That was already ruled on. Yeah, I heard, but they're saying you might be taking advantage of her. Vulnerable adult situation. That's ridiculous. Is it? Young woman, no money, living alone in a cabin on your property? Dale shrugged. Doesn't look great. Ethan straightened, facing him fully. She's employed. She's safe. And she's there by choice. I'm just telling you what they said. They also mentioned something about child welfare concerns. Ethan's blood ran cold. Lily? They're saying it's not appropriate to have a stranger living on the property with a young child. Serena's not a stranger. She's family. Dale held up his hands. I'm not saying I agree. I'm just giving you a heads up. Child Protective Services might come knocking. On what grounds? On the grounds that someone with money and lawyers made a phone call. Dale's expression softened slightly. Look, Ethan, I know you. You're a good man, but these people have reach. If they want to make your life difficult, they can. So what do you suggest I do? Throw her out? I suggest you be smart. Get your ducks in a row. Make sure everything's documented and legal. And maybe talk to a lawyer about what your rights are. Ethan's hands clenched into fists. I already have a lawyer. Then you're ahead of the game. Dale straightened. Just watch your back. He walked away, leaving Ethan standing there with half a cart of feed and a growing sense of dread. He called Rachel from the truck. She answered on the second ring. What happened? They're going after Lily, claiming Serena's presence is a child welfare issue. Rachel cursed. A sharp, vicious sound. Of course they are. It's a classic intimidation tactic. Can they actually do that? They can file a complaint. Whether CPS takes it seriously is another matter, but you need to be prepared for a visit. What do I tell them? The truth. Serena is a legal adult, gainfully employed, living in separate housing. She has no criminal record, no history of violence or substance abuse, and her presence poses no threat to Lily. And if they don't believe me, then we fight. But Ethan, you need to understand something. This is just the beginning. They're testing you, seeing how much pressure it takes before you break. I'm not breaking. I know, but make sure Serena knows that too, because this is going to get worse before it gets better. Ethan hung up and sat in the truck for a long moment, staring at the steering wheel. Then he drove home. Serena was in the barn when he found her, brushing down one of the horses, a job she'd taken on without being asked. She looked up when he entered, and her smile faded immediately. What's wrong? He told her everything. She set down the brush, face pale. They're going after Lily because of me. They're going after Lily because they're desperate. Ethan, I can't let you lose your daughter because you helped me. I won't. You're not going anywhere. If CPS takes her, they won't. You don't know that. I know that running won't fix this. Ethan stepped closer. They want you scared. They want you isolated. They want you to think you're the problem, but you're not. They are. Serena's eyes filled with tears. I should leave. Go somewhere else. Somewhere they can't find me. And then what? You spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder? That's not freedom. That's just a different kind of prison. At least you and Lily would be safe. We'd be miserable. Serena looked at him, searching his face. You really mean that? Every word. She closed her eyes, tears spilling over. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Let people fight for me. I've spent my whole life trying to be small enough that no one noticed, quiet enough that no one got angry, and now you're asking me to be big, loud, worth the trouble. Ethan took her face in his hands gently, the way he'd hold something precious. You are worth the trouble. You're worth every single second of this fight, and I need you to believe that. She leaned into his touch, eyes still closed. I'm trying. That's all I'm asking. They stood there in the barn, surrounded by the smell of hay and horses, and for a moment the world outside didn't exist. Then Lily's voice rang out from the house. Daddy, someone's here! They pulled apart. Ethan's stomach sank. Stay in the barn. No. Serena, if it's CPS, hiding makes me look guilty. I'm coming with you. They walked to the house together. A silver sedan was parked in the driveway. A woman in her 40s stepped out, holding a clipboard and wearing an expression of professional neutrality. Mr. Calloway? I'm Linda Morrison from Child Protective Services. I'm here to conduct a welfare check. Ethan kept his voice calm. Based on what complaint? I'm not at liberty to discuss the specifics. May I come inside? Do you have a warrant? This is a voluntary check, but if you refuse, I'll have to escalate to a formal investigation. Ethan exchanged a glance with Serena. Then he nodded. Come in. Lily was in the living room, clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit and watching the stranger with wide eyes. Linda smiled at her, warm, practiced. Hi there, I'm Linda. What's your name? Lily. That's a beautiful name. How old are you, Lily? 8? And do you like living here? Lily nodded vigorously. I love it. What do you love about it? My dad and Serena and the chickens and movie night and cookies. Linda glanced at Serena, who stood in the doorway with her arms crossed. And who is Serena? She works here, Lily said. She's my friend. Does she live here? She lives in the cabin out back, but she eats with us and watches movies with us and helps me with homework sometimes. Does that make you feel safe? Lily tilted her head, confused. Why wouldn't it? Linda wrote something on her clipboard. Then she turned to Ethan. May I see the cabin? It's Serena's space. You'll have to ask her. Linda looked at Serena. May I? Serena hesitated. Then she said, yes. They walked out to the cabin together, Ethan, Serena, and Linda. Lily trailed behind, still clutching her rabbit. Linda inspected everything. The wood stove, the bed, the small kitchenette, the door with its lock on the inside. How long have you been living here, Miss Vale? A little over a month. And you're employed by Mr. Calloway? Yes. Doing what? Farm work, feeding livestock, maintaining fences, general labor. And he pays you? Yes. How much? Serena told her. Linda wrote it down. And you chose to live here? Yes. No one forced you? No one forced me. Linda turned to Ethan. And you have full custody of your daughter? Yes. The mother? Passed away 5 years ago. Linda's expression softened slightly. I'm sorry. She made another note. Then she looked at Lily. Sweetheart, can you show me your room? Lily led her back to the house, chattering about her rock collection and the drawing she'd made in art class. Ethan and Serena stood outside the cabin, waiting. She seems okay, Serena whispered. She's doing her job. What if she decides Lily's not safe? Then we prove she is. 20 minutes later, Linda emerged from the house. She walked over to them, expression neutral. Mr. Calloway, I've completed my assessment. Your daughter is healthy, well cared for, and clearly happy. The home is clean and safe. I see no immediate concerns. Ethan exhaled. However, Linda continued, I'll be filing a report about the living arrangement. It's unusual, and given the complaint we received, I'm required to document it. What does that mean? It means this stays in our system. If another complaint is filed, it'll be reviewed in context of this visit. She looked at Serena. Miss Vale, I'd recommend you formalize your employment. Contracts, pay stubs, clear documentation. It'll protect both of you. Serena nodded. I will. Linda handed Ethan a business card. If you have any questions or concerns, call me directly. Otherwise, you should be fine. She got in her car and drove away. The moment she was gone, Lily ran out of the house and threw her arms around Serena. You're not leaving, right? Serena knelt down and hugged her tight. I'm not leaving. Promise? Promise. Lily pulled back and looked at her seriously. I told the lady you're the best thing that's happened to us in a long time. Serena's breath hitched. You did? Yep, and it's true. Ethan ruffled his daughter's hair. Come on, kiddo, let's get you inside. It's getting cold. Lily bounded off toward the house. Serena stood slowly, watching her go. She meant that. Yeah, Ethan said. She did. Serena turned to him. I need to tell you something. What? I'm falling in love with this place, with this life, with... She trailed off, but her eyes said the rest. Ethan's heart hammered in his chest. Serena, I know, it's complicated, and terrible timing, and probably a disaster waiting to happen. She laughed shakily. But I needed you to know. Before Ethan could respond, his phone rang. It was Rachel. I just got a call from Victor's attorneys, she said without preamble. They've filed a civil suit against you for interference with a domestic relationship and emotional distress. Ethan closed his eyes. How much? $2 million. Serena's face went white. No. It's a nuisance suit, Rachel said quickly. It won't hold up, but it's designed to drain your resources and scare you off. It's working, Ethan muttered. Don't let it. This is exactly what they want. They want you broke and terrified and willing to hand Serena over just to make it stop. I'm not handing her over. Good, because we're going to destroy them. Ethan hung up and looked at Serena, who was trembling. $2 million, she whispered. Ethan, you could lose everything. I already told you, I'm not letting go. This is insane. He kissed her. It was sudden and desperate and completely unplanned, but the moment his lips touched hers, everything else fell away. When he pulled back, they were both breathing hard. I'm not letting go, he said again, quieter this time. Serena stared at him, eyes wide, cheeks flushed. Ethan, I know it's complicated, I know it's a mess, but I don't care. He cupped her face. You're not alone in this. Not anymore. Serena's eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve you. Yeah, you do. She kissed him again, slower this time, and in that moment, surrounded by the Montana cold and the weight of everything coming for them, they chose each other. Whatever happened next, they'd face it together. They didn't talk about the kiss. Not that night, when Lily insisted they all watch a movie together and fell asleep between them on the couch. Not the next morning, when they worked side by side in the barn with careful distance and stolen glances. Not during the long Montana evenings when Serena retreated to her cabin and Ethan stood on his porch wondering if he'd made everything infinitely more complicated. But the air between them had changed, charged, electric, and they both knew it. The civil suit arrived by courier 4 days later, a thick envelope full of legal jargon that boiled down to one simple threat: pay up or be destroyed. Rachel had already filed a motion to dismiss, but the court date was set for February, which meant 2 more months of waiting, 2 more months of Victor tightening the noose. Ethan was in the kitchen going over the documents for the 3rd time when Serena appeared in the doorway, holding her phone with shaking hands. He posted about me, she said quietly. Ethan looked up sharply. What? She turned the phone toward him. Victor's social media profile filled the screen, polished, professional, with thousands of followers. The post was recent, less than an hour old. It showed a photo of Serena from 2 years ago at some charity gala, smiling in an elegant dress, Victor's arm around her waist. The caption read, "Still praying for Serena's recovery and safe return. Mental health struggles are real, and I'm committed to supporting her through this difficult time. To those who've reached out with concern, thank you. Your prayers mean everything." The comments were already rolling in, hundreds of them, sympathetic, supportive, completely fooled. He's painting himself as the victim, Serena whispered. He's making it look like I abandoned him because I'm sick. Ethan's jaw clenched. Can we report this? Get it taken down? For what? He didn't say anything technically false. He's just implying. It's defamation. It's strategic. Serena set the phone down, face pale. By the time we get it removed, thousands of people will have seen it. They'll believe him. And when we go back to court, his lawyers will use this as evidence that he's been nothing but supportive while I've been unstable and ungrateful. Ethan stood, crossing to her. We'll tell the truth. The truth doesn't matter when the lie is prettier. Her voice cracked. This is what he does. He controls the narrative, makes himself look like a saint while destroying anyone who challenges him. Then we change the narrative. How? Ethan was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he said, we tell your story, publicly, all of it. Serena's eyes widened. Are you serious? He's using social media to manipulate people. We can do the same thing, but with the truth. Ethan, if I go public, my family will disown me completely. Whatever small chance I have of reconciliation will disappear. Do you want reconciliation? She looked away. I don't know, maybe. Someday. Serena. He waited until she met his eyes. What do you want right now? Not someday, right now. She was silent for a long moment. Then she said, I want to stop being afraid. I want to stop letting them dictate my life. I want to be free. Then let's make you free. Serena searched his face, looking for doubt, for hesitation. She found none. Okay, she whispered. Let's do it. They called Rachel immediately. She was skeptical. Going public is risky. It could backfire, make you look vindictive or unstable. Or it could expose Victor for what he really is, Ethan countered. That's a gamble. We're already gambling. At least this way we control the message. Rachel was quiet. Then she said, if you're going to do this, do it right. Don't just post some emotional rant. Make it measured, factual, Let the facts speak for themselves. How? Write out your story, chronologically. Include dates, specific incidents, direct quotes if you remember them. Make it impossible to dismiss as hysteria or exaggeration. Serena nodded slowly. I can do that. And Serena? Once you post it, there's no taking it back. You need to be absolutely sure. Serena glanced at Ethan, who gave her a small, encouraging nod. I'm sure, she said. They spent the next 2 days writing. Serena sat at Ethan's kitchen table with a laptop he'd borrowed from a neighbor, typing and deleting and typing again. Ethan read over her shoulder, offering suggestions, holding her when the memories became too much. She wrote about the first time Victor had corrected her in public, dismissing her opinion on a topic she knew better than he did. About the time he'd shown up at her apartment unannounced and gotten angry when she wasn't ready to go out. About the engagement party where he'd gripped her wrist under the table hard enough to bruise when she'd laughed at another man's joke. She wrote about telling her father and being told to stop being dramatic. About the driver arriving in the black sedan. About the terror of being sent away like a piece of broken furniture. And she wrote about finding something she'd never had before. Autonomy, dignity, and people who saw her as more than a transaction. When she finished, the document was 12 pages long. Rachel reviewed it, made a few edits for legal protection, and sent it back with a note. This is powerful. Post it. Serena created a new social media account under her full name. No profile picture, no followers, just the truth. She titled the post simply, My Story. Then she hit publish. For the first few hours, nothing happened. Then someone shared it, then someone else. By midnight, the post had been shared 3,000 times. By morning, it had gone viral. Serena's phone started ringing at 6 a.m. Reporters, bloggers, advocacy groups. Ethan turned it off and made her breakfast while she sat at the table staring at the laptop screen, watching the numbers climb. This is insane, she whispered. This is justice, Ethan corrected. At 10 a.m., Rachel called. Have you seen the news? What news? Victor's post has been taken down. The platform flagged it for misinformation after thousands of people reported it. And there's more. 2 other women have come forward saying Victor did the same thing to them. Serena's breath caught. What? One was an ex-girlfriend from college. The other was a business associate. Both described the same pattern of control and manipulation. The media is picking it up. This isn't just about you anymore. This is about him. Serena covered her mouth with her hand, tears streaming down her face. Ethan took the phone. What happens now? Now we use this. I'm filing an amended motion to dismiss the civil suit on grounds of malicious prosecution, and I'm recommending that Serena file a countersuit for defamation and emotional distress. Will it work? With this much public attention? It's a strong case. But Ethan, you need to understand, this is going to get ugly. Victor's team will come after her credibility. They'll dig into her past. They'll attack everyone associated with her, including you. Let them try. Rachel paused. You really care about her? Yeah, I do. Good, because she's going to need you. Over the next week, the story exploded. Major news outlets picked it up. Advocacy organizations reached out offering support. Serena's post was featured in articles about coercive control and financial abuse in wealthy families. Victor's company issued a statement denying all allegations and threatening legal action against anyone spreading false information. But the damage was done. 3 more women came forward, then 5, then 10. Each one with a similar story, a charming man who became controlling, who used money and influence to isolate and manipulate, who painted himself as the victim when they tried to leave. The pattern was undeniable. Victor's board of directors called an emergency meeting. His social media accounts went silent. His lawyers stopped returning calls. And then, on a cold December morning, the news broke. Victor Hale had been charged with coercion and harassment in connection with one of the cases. The investigation was ongoing. Serena read the headline on Ethan's laptop, hands shaking. It's really happening, she whispered. Ethan stood behind her, hands on her shoulders. You did this. We did this. He kissed the top of her head. I'm proud of you. She turned to look up at him, eyes bright with tears. I didn't think I could be this person, someone who fights back. You've always been this person. You just needed to remember. Lily appeared in the doorway, still in her pajamas. Is the bad man going to jail? Ethan glanced at Serena, who nodded slightly. Maybe, he told Lily. The police are investigating. Lily patted over and climbed into Serena's lap, wrapping her arms around her neck. Good. He was mean to you. Serena held her tight, breathing in the smell of her strawberry shampoo. Yeah, he was. But you're safe now, right? I'm safe. Lily pulled back and looked at her seriously. Are you going to stay forever? Serena's throat tightened. She looked at Ethan, who was watching them both with an expression she couldn't quite read. I'd like to, she said softly. If that's okay with you. Lily grinned. It's very okay. She scrambled down and ran off to get dressed, leaving Ethan and Serena alone in the kitchen. Serena stood slowly. I meant that. About staying. If you'll have me. Ethan stepped closer, until there was barely any space between them. Serena, I'd have you for as long as you'll stay. What if I want to stay a long time? Then I guess you're stuck with me. She smiled, a real genuine smile that lit up her whole face. I can think of worse fates. He kissed her then, slow and sweet, and for the first time since she'd arrived in that black sedan 2 months ago, Serena felt like she was exactly where she belonged. But peace, as always, was temporary. The appeal hearing arrived in mid-January, carried in on a winter storm that dumped 6 inches of snow overnight. Ethan drove through it with white knuckles, Serena silent in the passenger seat, both of them knowing this was the final test. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, advocates, curious onlookers who'd followed the story online. Victor sat at the plaintiff's table, flanked by new lawyers. His expression was carefully neutral, but his eyes were cold. Serena's father was absent. The judge was the same woman who'd ruled in Serena's favor the first time, sharp, no nonsense, and clearly irritated by the circus the case had become. This is an appeal hearing, she said, settling into her seat. Not a retrial, mister. Hale's attorneys, present your case. The lead attorney stood, younger than the last one, aggressive. Your Honor, we believe the original ruling was made without full consideration of the facts. Miss Vale's recent actions, going public with unsubstantiated allegations, inciting a media frenzy, engaging in what can only be described as a revenge campaign, demonstrate exactly the kind of impulsive, erratic behavior that warranted the conservatorship in the first place. Rachel shot to her feet. Objection. My client exercised her First Amendment right to share her own story. That's not erratic behavior. That's self-advocacy. Self-advocacy that conveniently went viral and destroyed my client's reputation. If your client's reputation was destroyed, perhaps he should examine his own behavior rather than blame the women he's harmed. The judge held up a hand. Counselors, arguments, not accusations. The attorney continued. Your Honor, we have evidence that Miss Vale has been cohabitating with Mr. Calloway, a man she barely knew when she arrived. This suggests poor judgment and impulsivity consistent with our concerns about her mental state. Ethan's hands clenched in his lap. Rachel stood again. Miss Vale lives in a separate residence on Mr. Calloway's property. She is gainfully employed. She has been evaluated by multiple mental health professionals, all of whom found her competent and stable. The only people questioning her judgment are those who benefit from controlling her. The attorney's jaw tightened. We also have testimony from Mr. Vale, Miss Vale's father, regarding her history of defiance and emotional instability. Testimony from a man who sent his daughter to a rural labor program as punishment for refusing an arranged marriage, Rachel shot back. But forgive me if I question his objectivity. The judge leaned forward. Does the father wish to testify in person? The attorney hesitated. He's unable to attend today. How convenient. The judge's eyes narrowed. I've read all the briefs, I've reviewed the evidence, and frankly, this entire appeal seems designed to harass rather than illuminate. She looked at Victor. Mr. Hale, stand up. Victor rose slowly, surprise flickering across his face. I've also read the recent news coverage, the judge continued. Multiple women have come forward with allegations of coercive behavior. You're currently under criminal investigation, and yet you're asking this court to grant you legal control over a woman who clearly doesn't want you in her life at all. Your Honor, those allegations are— I don't care what your explanation is. Here's what I care about. Miss Vale is an adult. She has demonstrated competence, stability, and sound judgment. She has built a life for herself independent of her family's wealth and influence. And most importantly, she has made it abundantly clear that she does not consent to any form of control by you or her family. The judge turned to Serena. Miss Vale, do you wish to be under conservatorship? Serena stood, voice steady. No, Your Honor. Do you feel you are capable of making your own decisions? Yes, Your Honor. Do you have adequate support and resources? Serena glanced at Ethan. Yes, Your Honor, I do. The judge nodded. Then this court sees no reason to grant the appeal. The conservatorship petition remains denied. Furthermore, I'm issuing a permanent restraining order against Mr. Hale. He is not to contact Miss Vale in any form. Violation will result in immediate arrest. She looked at Victor's attorney. And counselor, I suggest your client focus on his criminal defense rather than continuing to harass my plaintiff. She slammed the gavel. The courtroom erupted. Serena's knees buckled and Rachel caught her. It's over, Rachel said, smiling. It's really over. Serena turned to find Ethan, who'd pushed through the crowd to reach her. She threw her arms around him, and he lifted her off her feet, holding her tight. You did it, he murmured into her hair. You're free. She pulled back, tears streaming down her face. We did it. Behind them, Victor stood frozen at the plaintiff's table, flanked by his lawyers. For the first time since Serena had known him, he looked small, powerless. She met his gaze across the courtroom. He stared back, jaw tight, fury barely contained, but he didn't move. Couldn't move. The restraining order was in effect. Serena turned away from him, from her father's absence, from the years of control and fear, and walked out of the courthouse hand in hand with Ethan. Outside, snow was still falling. The world was white and clean and full of possibility. Rachel caught up with them on the steps. I'll file the dismissal of the civil suit tomorrow. After this ruling, they won't fight it. And Serena, if you want to pursue your own lawsuit against Victor... No, Serena said quietly. Rachel blinked. No? I don't want his money. I don't want to be tied to him in any way, even through litigation. I just want to move on. Rachel studied her for a moment. Then she nodded. That's fair. You've earned that. They said their goodbyes, and Ethan and Serena walked to the truck in companionable silence. Inside, Ethan started the engine but didn't pull out of the parking lot. He just sat there, hands on the steering wheel, staring at the snow-covered windshield. What are you thinking? Serena asked. He turned to look at her. I'm thinking about the first time I saw you, standing in my driveway looking like the world had chewed you up and spit you out. And I'm thinking about how you look right now, and took his hand. What happens now? And took his hand. What happens now? Now we go home. Home, she repeated, testing the word. I like that. He smiled. Me too. They drove back through the storm, the world quiet and hushed around them. When they pulled into the driveway, Lily was watching from the window. She ran out onto the porch in her socks, waving frantically. Serena laughed and waved back. Come on, Ethan said, squeezing her hand. Let's go tell her the good news. They climbed out of the truck and walked toward the house together. Lily met them halfway, throwing her arms around both of them. Did we win? She asked, looking up at Serena. We won, Serena confirmed. Lily cheered and dragged them both inside, talking a mile a minute about the celebration dinner she'd planned with the neighbor who'd been watching her. Ethan caught Serena's eye across the kitchen and smiled. She smiled back. And in that moment, surrounded by warmth and laughter and the smell of something burning in the oven because Lily had gotten distracted, Serena realized something profound. She'd spent her whole life trying to be enough for people who would never be satisfied. But here, in this small farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, Montana, she didn't have to try. She was already enough. She was already home. That night, after Lily had gone to bed and the dishes were done, Serena stood on the porch of her cabin, looking up at the stars. Ethan appeared beside her, 2 mugs of coffee in his hands. Thought you might be cold, he said, handing her one. Thank you. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, just breathing in the crisp winter air. Then Serena said, I've been thinking. About? About what I want to do, long term. Ethan looked at her. And? I have a business degree I never got to use, and I've been watching how this farm operates. You're barely breaking even because you're doing everything the hard way. No offense. None taken. What if we changed that? What if we diversified, added value-added products, expanded the chicken operation, maybe started a small farm stand or a subscription service for fresh eggs and vegetables? Ethan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You want to stay, for real? I want to build something. With you. If you'll let me." He set down his coffee and turned to face her fully. "Serena, I'm not letting you. I'm asking you. Will you stay? Will you be part of this? The farm, the chaos, the life we're building?" "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Yes to all of it." He pulled her close, and she rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "I never thought I'd feel this way again," he admitted quietly. "After my wife died, I thought that part of my life was over, that I'd just go through the motions until Lily was grown, and then, I don't know, exist. And now? Now I'm living again, because of you." Serena pulled back to look at him. "I love you." The words hung in the cold air between them. Ethan's breath caught. "Say that again." "I love you, Ethan Callaway. I love your stubbornness and your kindness and the way you make me feel like I'm worth fighting for." He kissed her, deep and slow and full of promise. When they finally pulled apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "I love you too," he whispered. "More than I thought I could love anyone again." They stood there under the Montana stars, holding each other, and the future stretched out before them like a blank page waiting to be written. Serena had escaped a cage, but she'd found so much more than freedom. She'd found home. Winter gave way to spring with the kind of slow transformation that made you forget what cold felt like. The snow melted into streams that carved new paths through Ethan's fields. The chickens laid more eggs, the cattle grew fat on fresh grass, and Serena became as much a part of the farm as the fence posts and the weathered barn. She moved out of the cabin in March. Not far, just into the main house, into the room across the hall from Lily's that had been empty for 5 years. Ethan had asked her one morning over coffee, casual as discussing the weather, and she'd said yes before he'd finished the sentence. Lily had been ecstatic, immediately declaring they needed to redecorate and dragging Serena to town to pick out curtains and paint samples. They'd spent an entire Saturday transforming the space, Lily chattering nonstop while Serena painted the walls a soft sage green. Ethan had watched from the doorway, paintbrush in hand, and thought about how different the house felt now. Full, alive. Like a home instead of a museum to grief. That night, after Lily was asleep, Serena had found him on the porch. "Thank you," she'd said quietly. "For what?" "For giving me a place to belong." He'd pulled her close and kissed her forehead. "You gave us the same thing." Now, 2 months later, the farm was transforming in ways Ethan had never imagined possible. Serena had taken over the business side with the kind of fierce intelligence that made him wonder how anyone had ever convinced her she wasn't capable. She'd created spreadsheets tracking expenses and revenue, identified inefficiencies, negotiated better prices with suppliers, and developed a 3-year expansion plan that actually made sense. "We're losing money on feed," she'd explained one evening, laptop open on the kitchen table, Lily doing homework beside her. "We're buying retail when we could be buying direct from a co-op for 30% less. And we're not maximizing egg production. If we increase the flock by 20 birds and implement a better feeding schedule, we could double our output." Ethan had stared at the numbers, then at her. "How do you know all this?" "Business degree, remember? I minored in agricultural economics because my father wanted me to understand the family investments. Turns out it's actually useful." "You're incredible." She'd smiled, a little shy, a little proud. "I'm just getting started." By April, they'd expanded the chicken operation and launched a farm stand at the end of the driveway every Saturday. Serena had designed hand-painted signs, created a simple website, and started a social media presence that attracted customers from 3 counties over. People came for the fresh eggs and stayed to pet the chickens, buy vegetables from the small garden Serena had planted, and listen to Lily's enthusiastic tours of the farm. The profit margin was still thin, but it was growing. More importantly, they weren't just surviving anymore. They were building something sustainable, something with a future. But not everything was simple. The legal battles were over, but the aftermath lingered like bruises that took time to fade. Victor had been formally charged with coercion and harassment in connection with two of the women who'd come forward. His company had quietly removed him from the board of directors. His social media presence had vanished entirely. Serena followed the news with a mixture of vindication and exhaustion. She'd won, but winning didn't erase the years of control or the scars left behind. There were still nights when she woke up gasping, dreaming she was back in her father's house. Still moments when a car driving too slowly past the farm made her freeze. Still days when she had to remind herself that she was allowed to make decisions without permission. Ethan learned to recognize the signs. The way her shoulders tensed, the distant look in her eyes, the forced brightness in her voice when she said she was fine. He learned when to push and when to just be there. One evening in late April, he found her sitting on the porch steps, staring at her phone. "What's wrong?" he asked, settling beside her. She showed him the screen, an email from her mother, the first contact since the trial. It was short, formal, almost robotic. "Serena, your father and I have decided it would be best if we maintain our distance for the foreseeable future. We hope you understand that your actions have had significant consequences for the family. We wish you well." Mother Serena's voice was flat. That's it. No apology, no acknowledgement. Just, "We wish you well." Ethan wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't care. I knew they'd choose their reputation over me. I've always known that. That doesn't make it hurt less." She leaned into him, eyes dry, but voice thick. "I keep waiting to feel relieved, like cutting ties completely will make me free. But it just feels empty." "You're allowed to grieve, even for people who didn't deserve you. They're my parents. I should feel something more than nothing. You feel what you feel. There's no should." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I have a new family now, you and Lily. That's enough." "More than enough." She turned to look at him, eyes searching. "Do you ever regret this? Taking me in? All the chaos I brought with me? Not even for a second. Even when we almost lost everything? We didn't lose everything. We gained each other." He cupped her face gently. "Serena, before you showed up, I was surviving. Just going through the motions. Now I'm living. You did that. You and your stubborn refusal to give up." She kissed him then, soft and sweet, and when they pulled apart, she was smiling. "I love you," she said. "I love you too." Lily's voice rang out from inside the house. "Are you guys being mushy again?" Serena laughed. "Yes. Gross." But Lily was grinning when she appeared in the doorway. "Dinner's ready. I made spaghetti." "You made spaghetti?" Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Okay, I boiled water and you made the sauce. But I helped." They went inside together, and the email from Serena's mother stayed unopened on her phone, gradually fading into irrelevance. Because the family that mattered was right here. In May, something unexpected happened. One of the women who'd testified against Victor, a former business associate named Claire Mendoza, reached out to Serena through social media. She was starting a nonprofit organization to support women escaping coercive relationships, particularly those involving financial control and family pressure. She wanted Serena's help. Serena read the message 3 times before showing it to Ethan. "What do you think?" she asked. "What do you think?" I think I want to do it. I have experience, I have a platform, and I know what it's like to feel trapped with no way out." "Then do it." "It would take time, energy. I'd have to travel sometimes for speaking engagements or meetings. We'll figure it out." "You're sure?" He took her hand. "Serena, you fought your way out of a cage and helped bring down a man who hurt a lot of people. If you can use that to help others, you should." She squeezed his hand, eyes bright. "Thank you." "For what?" "For believing I'm capable of more than just surviving." "You've always been capable. Now other people get to see it too." Serena joined the nonprofit as a founding board member. She started small, writing blog posts, speaking to local advocacy groups, offering one-on-one mentorship to women in similar situations. But the work grew quickly. Her story resonated. People listened. By summer, she was traveling once a month to speak at conferences and universities. Ethan and Lily went with her when they could, turning the trips into small adventures. But when Serena had to go alone, Ethan made sure she knew she had a home to come back to. The farm continued to grow. They added a small cafe in the barn, just a few tables and a counter serving coffee, fresh eggs, and baked goods Serena had learned to make from YouTube tutorials. It wasn't fancy, but it was charming, and it became a gathering place for locals and tourists alike. Lily had insisted on a chicken window, a large glass panel where kids could watch the hens while they ate. It was ridiculous and perfect, and it became the cafe's signature feature. Ethan hired part-time help for the first time in years. 2 local teenagers who needed work and didn't mind mucking stalls. It meant he could focus on the larger projects, like expanding the vegetable garden and repairing the barn roof that had been leaking for 3 winters. For the first time since his wife died, the farm wasn't a burden. It was a business, a community, a legacy. And through it all, Serena was there, working beside him in the fields, managing the cafe, coming home from trips with stories and exhaustion and determination to keep going. She was relentless, passionate, alive, and Ethan fell more in love with her every single day. In August, on a warm evening when the sky was streaked with pink and gold, Ethan asked Lily for permission. They were sitting on the porch, just the 2 of them, watching the sun set over the fields. "I need to ask you something," he said carefully. Lily looked up from the book she was reading. "Okay. How would you feel if Serena stayed with us forever? Like, officially?" Lily blinked. Then her eyes went wide. "Are you going to marry her?" "I'm thinking about it, but I wanted to make sure you were okay with it first." Lily set down her book, expression serious. "Do you love her?" "Very much." "Does she love you?" "I think so." "Does she make you happy?" "Yeah, kiddo, she does." Lily nodded slowly, considering. Then she said, "She makes me happy too, and she's the best thing that's happened to us since Mom died." Ethan's throat tightened. "You think Mom would be okay with this?" Lily thought about it. Then she said, "I think Mom would want you to be happy, and I think she'd like Serena." "Yeah?" "Yeah. Serena's strong and kind, and she doesn't treat me like a baby. Mom would have liked that." Ethan pulled his daughter into a hug. "You're pretty wise for 8. "I know," Lily said matter-of-factly. "So when are you asking her?" "Soon. Can I help pick the ring?" "Absolutely." Lily grinned. "This is the best day ever." 2 weeks later, Ethan drove 3 hours to Billings with Lily in the passenger seat, armed with a list of requirements she'd written out in purple crayon. "It has to be pretty but not too fancy," she explained as they walked into the jewelry store. "And it has to be strong because Serena works hard, and it can't break. And it should have a stone that's her favorite color." "What's her favorite color?" Ethan asked. Lily paused. "I don't know. We should have asked. We'll figure it out." They spent an hour looking at rings, Lily providing running commentary on each one. Too big, too small, too sparkly, not sparkly enough. Finally, she pointed to one in the corner of the case. "That one." It was simple. A thin gold band with a small, deep green emerald flanked by 2 tiny diamonds. "It's the color of the cabin walls she painted," Lily explained. "And it's not too fancy. And it looks strong." Ethan stared at it, then at his daughter. "You're right. It's perfect." They bought the ring and drove home, Lily clutching the small velvet box the entire way. "When are you going to ask her?" she demanded. "I'm working on it." "You should do it somewhere romantic, like in a movie." "I don't think Serena wants a movie proposal." "Everyone wants a movie proposal." "I'll keep that in mind." In the end, he didn't plan it at all. It was a Saturday in early September, one of those perfect Montana days when the air was crisp and the sky was impossibly blue. The farm stand had been busy all morning, and Serena was laughing with a customer about the chickens when Ethan looked at her and just knew. This was the moment. He waited until the customers had left and the stand was empty except for Lily, who was restocking egg cartons. "Hey," he said to Serena, "come with me for a second." She looked up, curious. "Where?" "Just come on." He led her out to the field behind the barn, the same field where she'd collapsed from exhaustion her first week, where they'd worked side by side through freezing mornings and blazing afternoons, where they'd built something real together. Lily followed at a distance, clutching her phone to record the moment. Serena stopped in the middle of the field, hands on her hips. "What's going on?" Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out the ring box. Serena's breath caught. "I'm not good at speeches," he started, opening the box. "And this probably isn't as romantic as you deserve, but I need you to know something." She was already crying. "5 months ago, you showed up in my driveway looking like the world had broken you, and I thought I was doing you a favor by letting you stay. But the truth is, you saved us, me and Lily. You reminded me what it feels like to hope, to build, to love." He dropped to one knee and Serena's hand flew to her mouth. "Serena Vale, will you marry me?" She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, yes, absolutely yes." He slid the ring onto her finger and she pulled him to his feet, kissing him while Lily cheered in the background. When they finally pulled apart, Serena was laughing and crying at the same time. "I can't believe you did this," she said. "Believe it." Lily ran over and threw her arms around both of them. "We're going to be a real family." "We already were," Serena said, kneeling down to hug her. "But now it's official." They stood there in the field, the three of them, holding on to each other while the Montana sun blazed overhead. And Ethan thought about how far they'd come. From survival to hope, from strangers to family, from broken to whole. The wedding was small. They got married in late October on the farm, in the same field where Ethan had proposed. 50 people attended, neighbors, friends, a few advocacy group colleagues Serena had grown close to. Rachel was there, grinning like a proud parent. Even Dr. Vasquez came, bringing a bottle of champagne and a card that made Serena cry. Lily was the maid of honor, wearing a purple dress she'd picked out herself. She took her role very seriously, making sure everyone signed the guest book and that the chickens stayed out of the ceremony area. Serena wore a simple white dress she'd found at a boutique in Billings. No veil, no train, just clean lines and quiet elegance. Ethan wore the same suit he'd worn to his first wedding, but it felt different this time. Lighter, like he was walking toward something instead of away from grief. The ceremony was officiated by the local pastor, a kind woman who'd known Ethan since he was a boy. She kept it short and heartfelt, talking about second chances and chosen family and love that heals. When it was time for vows, Ethan went first. "Serena," he said, voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes, "I was surviving before you, just getting through each day. But you taught me how to live again. You taught me that strength isn't about never breaking. It's about putting yourself back together. And you taught Lily that family isn't just blood. It's choice. I choose you, today and every day after." Serena wiped her eyes, smiling. Then she took a breath and said, "Ethan, when I came here, I was running. I didn't think I deserved safety or kindness or love. But you gave me all three without asking for anything in return. You saw me when I was invisible. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And you showed me that home isn't a place. It's people. You and Lily are my home, and I'm never letting that go." There wasn't a dry eye in the audience. The pastor pronounced them married, and Ethan kissed his wife while everyone cheered. The reception was held in the barn, which they decorated with string lights and wildflowers. There was no DJ, just a playlist Lily had made of their favorite songs. No caterer, just potluck dishes from friends and neighbors. No champagne tower, just mason jars of homemade lemonade and Rachel's expensive champagne. It was simple and perfect and exactly what they wanted. Lily gave a toast that made everyone laugh and cry in equal measure, talking about how Serena had taught her that strong women help each other and that family is what you make it. Ethan danced with his daughter first, then with his wife, holding her close while the stars came out overhead. "Happy?" he murmured. "Happier than I ever thought possible," Serena said. "Good, because you're stuck with me now." She laughed. "Best decision I ever made." They danced until their feet hurt, ate until they were stuffed, and celebrated with people who genuinely loved them. And when the night wound down and the last guest had left, Ethan, Serena, and Lily stood on the porch of the farmhouse, looking out over the land they'd built together. "I can't believe this is my life," Serena said quietly. "Better than the alternative?" Ethan asked. "So much better." Lily yawned and leaned against Serena. "Can we have pancakes for breakfast?" "Absolutely." "Good." Lily looked up at her new stepmother. "I'm glad you stayed." Serena's eyes filled with tears. "Me too." They went inside together, and Ethan locked the door behind them. For the first time in 5 years, the house felt complete. The months that followed were the kind of ordinary happiness that felt revolutionary. Serena continued her advocacy work, traveling less frequently but speaking more powerfully. She'd found her voice, and people listened. The nonprofit grew, helping dozens of women escape situations like hers. Ethan expanded the farm, adding a small greenhouse and a subscription service for weekly produce boxes. The cafe thrived, becoming a local favorite. Lily excelled in school, confident and happy, telling anyone who'd listen about her 2 parents and the farm and the chickens she helped raise. They had movie nights every Friday, family dinners every evening, arguments about whose turn it was to muck the stalls, lazy Sunday mornings and chaotic weekday rushes. They were normal, beautifully, wonderfully normal. In December, a year after Serena had first arrived, she got an unexpected letter. It was from her mother. Ethan found her in the kitchen, staring at the envelope. "You okay?" he asked. "I don't know if I should open it." "Then don't." "But what if it's important?" "Then it'll still be important tomorrow." She set it on the counter and walked away. It sat there for 3 days. On the 4th day, Lily asked about it. "What's that letter?" "Something from my mom," Serena said. "Your mean mom who sent you away?" "Yeah." Lily thought about it. "Are you going to read it?" "I'm not sure." "I think you should. Not because she deserves it, but because you deserve to know what she said." Serena looked at the 8-year-old, impressed. "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been wise. People just don't notice because I'm short." That evening, with Ethan beside her for support, Serena finally opened the letter. It was handwritten this time. Her mother's careful script. "Serena, I've written this letter a dozen times and thrown it away each time. I'm not sure I'll send this one either, but I'm trying. Your father and I have separated. He moved out last month. The divorce will be final in the spring. I want you to know that I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't protect you. I'm sorry I chose comfort over courage. I'm sorry I taught you that your worth was in your obedience instead of your strength. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that I see you now. I see what you've built and who you've become. And I'm proud of you. I'm also ashamed of myself. That's something I'm learning to live with. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. If you don't, I understand. I hope you're happy. Mom." Serena read it twice, then handed it to Ethan. He read in silence, then looked at her. "How do you feel?" "I don't know. Sad, angry, maybe a little hopeful." "Do you want to respond?" She thought about it for a long time. Then she said, "Not yet. Maybe someday, but not yet." "That's fair." She folded the letter and put it in a drawer. Not thrown away, not answered, just acknowledged, because some wounds took time to heal. And Serena had learned that healing couldn't be rushed. Christmas came with snow and laughter and Lily's insistence on decorating every available surface. They spent Christmas Eve at the farm, just the 3 of them, watching old movies and eating too many cookies. On Christmas morning, Lily woke them at dawn, dragging them downstairs to the tree. She'd made them both gifts, a framed drawing of the 3 of them standing in front of the farmhouse, labeled "My Family," in careful letters. Serena cried. Ethan pretended not to. Lily beamed. They gave her the puppy they'd been hiding at the neighbor's house for 2 weeks, a golden retriever puppy with floppy ears and oversized paws. Lily named him Biscuit and refused to put him down for the entire day. It was the best Christmas any of them had ever had. In January, Victor's trial concluded. He was found guilty on multiple counts of coercion and harassment. The judge sentenced him to 18 months in prison and 5 years probation. His company settled with 3 of the women in civil suits. Serena watched the news with a strange mix of satisfaction and detachment. "It's over," Ethan said, wrapping an arm around her. "Yeah," she agreed. "It is." And it was. Not just the trial, not just the legal battles, the whole chapter of her life where she'd been someone's possession instead of her own person. That was over. What remained was everything she'd built in its place. In February, on a particularly cold morning, Serena woke up feeling sick. She didn't think much of it, probably just a stomach bug. But when it persisted for a week, Ethan insisted she see a doctor. She came home from the appointment with news that changed everything. Ethan was in the barn when she found him, and the look on her face made his heart stop. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. I'm pregnant." For a moment, he just stared at her. Then he whooped, picked her up, and spun her around. "Are you serious?" "Completely serious." "How far along?" "About 8 weeks. I'm due in October." He set her down gently, eyes bright. "We're having a baby. We're having a baby." He kissed her, soft and reverent. "I love you." "I love you too." They told Lily that night at dinner. Her reaction was everything they'd hoped for, pure, unbridled joy. "I'm going to be a big sister," she squealed. "You are," Serena confirmed. "This is the best day of my entire life." Lily jumped up and hugged them both. "Can I help name the baby?" "Absolutely," Ethan said. "Can I teach them about chickens?" "Of course." "Can I—" "Lily," Serena laughed, "one question at a time." But Lily was already planning, listing everything she'd teach her new sibling, how she'd protect them, all the adventures they'd have. Ethan and Serena exchanged a glance over her head, both thinking the same thing. Their family was growing, and it was beautiful. The pregnancy was smooth. Serena glowed, even when she was exhausted and craving weird combinations of food. Ethan hovered, protective and attentive. Lily appointed herself the baby's official guardian, reading to Serena's belly and making lists of rules for when the baby arrived. In October, on a crisp autumn morning, exactly 2 years after Serena had first arrived at the farm, she went into labor. Ethan drove her to the hospital with Lily in the back seat, gripping Serena's hand and telling her she was doing great, even though they hadn't gotten to the hard part yet. 12 hours later, Serena gave birth to a healthy baby boy. They named him Samuel Ethan Calloway, Sam for short. He had Serena's dark hair and Ethan's eyes, and when he cried, it was the most beautiful sound Ethan had ever heard. Lily held him for the first time with the kind of careful reverence reserved for precious things, tears streaming down her face. "Hi, Sam," she whispered. "I'm your big sister, and I'm going to teach you everything." Serena watched from the hospital bed, exhausted and radiant, and reached for Ethan's hand. "We did it," she said softly. "Yeah, we did. 2 years ago, I didn't think I'd survive. Now look at us." Ethan looked at his wife, his daughters, his son, his family. "Yeah," he said, voice thick with emotion. "Look at us." They brought Sam home to the farm 3 days later. The house that had been too quiet for too long was now filled with the sounds of a baby crying, Lily singing lullabies, Serena laughing at Ethan's attempts to change diapers. It was chaos. It was perfect. And it was home. One evening in late November, after Sam was asleep and Lily was doing homework, Ethan found Serena on the porch, wrapped in a blanket and staring at the stars. He settled beside her, pulling her close. "Cold?" "A little, but I like it out here." "What are you thinking about?" She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I'm thinking about how different my life is now. 2 years ago, I was terrified and alone and convinced I'd never be free. And now," she gestured to the house behind them, where their children slept. "Now I have everything I never knew I wanted." "No regrets?" "Not a single one." She looked at him. "You?" "My only regret is that I didn't find you sooner." She smiled and kissed him. "We found each other when we needed to. That's what matters." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars, listening to the sounds of the farm settling in for the night. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote called. The chickens rustled in their coop. The wind whispered through the fields. And inside the farmhouse, 2 children slept peacefully, safe and loved. Serena leaned her head on Ethan's shoulder. "Thank you." "For what?" "For seeing me, for fighting for me, for giving me a home." Ethan kissed the top of her head. "You gave us the same thing." And it was true. They'd saved each other, not in some grand, dramatic way, but in the quiet, everyday choice to show up, to fight, to build something better together. Serena had escaped a cage and found freedom, but more than that, she'd found family, purpose, love. She'd found herself. And Ethan had learned that grief doesn't have to be the end of the story, that opening your heart again isn't a betrayal of the past, It's a gift to the future. Together, they'd built something real, something lasting, a farm, a family, a life. And as they sat on that porch under the Montana stars, surrounded by everything they'd fought for and everything they'd become, they knew one thing with absolute certainty. They were home, and they were exactly where they belonged.